Hi friends, today we are going to be coloring in our John James Audubon inspired birds. So last class what we did was we drew our birds with pencil and then we traced it with black marker. Today we are going to be coloring using our technique of blending and shading. This demonstration is going to be used with colored pencils, but remember you can use crayons, you could use paints. You can use markers with the paint and water technique too, but just using markers on its own doesn't get quite as good of a blend. So I'm going to be using colored pencils for this. So I grabbed some colors that I saw in my Blue Jay, different shades of blue, different grays, and then for the background I'm going to do different shades of green. Now you can definitely draw in your background and add lots of different details, make kind of a landscape. I'm just going to kind of blend some colors together in my background just to make it look kind of like foliage and trees and greenery and things like that. But I'm definitely going to start with my Blue Jay. Now I grabbed a piece of scrap paper here just to kind of test out some of my blue colors just to see what they looked like. Just to see which ones are darker, which ones are lighter. Okay, so I definitely have kind of going light to dark here. I definitely grabbed a black. Now here's my grays. I'm going to do the same thing. This is kind of like a brown gray. Colors sometimes how they look and how they actually turn out on your paper can be very different. So I definitely like to test them out before I use them too, just to kind of okay, so I'm going to start with my bird. When I color my Blue Jay, I'm going to start with some of these lighter areas, and I definitely have a picture up just to see where the colors are, what it looks like. So I'm going to start out really light, and I'll kind of go in a little darker as I go. But there's definitely some blue on the Blue Jay's head here. There's white around the eye. I might press harder where I want a shadow and lighter where I want that color to be lighter, using our blending technique that we've used before. Our shading technique, I should say. When we do the blending, we'll blend two colors together here. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to kind of come down around the neck, and again, you can always get darker. It's a little harder to go from dark to light. So I'm just going to very lightly kind of color these areas in, and I'm using my lightest blue to start. And I'm going to do this really nice and neat. Again, I'm going to leave some areas white in the stripes. I'm going to make sure that I kind of go around here and leave some spaces white. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a different color blue and kind of add some darker colors in here. I'm going to blend these two colors together just by kind of layering them up. Again, this is a darker blue and a little shadow in here. Just so we don't have the same blue color over and over again. Just adding that shadow in there. And again, I'm kind of building up my color. You can always press harder to create those shadows. And press harder underneath the wing here so it kind of casts a shadow on top of those colors there. I can always go back in with my lighter blue here. Sometimes I really like to kind of color in a circle so that I don't get these little lines. I want it to be nice and smooth. Now the blue does kind of come down and kind of fade into white. So as you get closer to where there's going to be white on my Blue Jay, I'm going to press even lighter until I'm barely touching the paper. So it kind of fades. Okay, I'm going to go down to these bottom wings here. And I'm going to color this in. the wings. And I'm just going to start with this blue, and then I'm going to go back in with my darker blue to add some shadow. There's no white on the tail, it's just blue and black, so I'm going to color in there. Again, coloring in that circular motion, kind of keeping it nice and smooth. And I'm going to go back in. Having a picture to look at really, really helps. You definitely want to reference, so either have that picture up, or if you pull up on your Schoology, my presentation, to look at those pictures of birds. It really, really does help. And I'm kind of going in, adding some shadows in here, blending those two blues together. I don't just want one blue, I want some different shades. And again, you can do that just by pressing harder with your colored pencil. Now there's some really dark spots on the tail, so I'm going to go to the even darker blue that I have here. And I'm going to be using some black as well. Again, kind of blending it in with that blue that I started with. And again, if you press harder, you're going to get a darker shade. And then I'm going to go in with my black, darker of a shadow, kind of underneath the wings here. And I'm also going to color those areas on the tail that should be black, but I did trace with my marker, but I'm going to go in with the black colored pencil too, just to get a darker black color. And I'm going to do that on the wings here too. And same with on the head. Color this in darker, even though I did color it with my marker. I might even do a little bit of gray in here so it looks not quite as harsh and kind of blends those two colors from black to white in with the feathers. And I'm going to go back in with my dark blue because I noticed that there is a darker blue up on the head here. And I really like blending these different colors because it makes it look much more realistic when you do that. Alright, now for the beak, it's gray. Definitely has a darker gray on the bottom part of the beak. So I'm going to start out light, with some really nice and light on that beak. All over, coloring in those circular motions. The bottom of the beak is darker. You might kind of add a little shadow on there too, just by pressing a little harder. You can definitely use a different color too if you want. That's going to be up to you. Okay, and there is some gray on the belly here too. So again, I'm going to just kind of do the edge here, blending it with that blue color that I had. Remember, blending it on over top of each other. And just a little bit because it is mostly white here. Okay, so my blue jay's looking good. You can always go back in, add some darker shadows, some more blending if you want it to make it pop a little bit more. But overall, I think the blue jay looks really good. Now, for the branch, oh, I forgot the branch too. I can use different shades of brown, and for the background, I'm going to do different shades of green. Now, again, for this blending technique, what I might do is I might start by going around my blue jay. Coloring around it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of blend from one shade of green to the next, because sometimes when you take a photograph and you are taking a picture of nature, you can kind of blur out some of the background here and there. Maybe I'm going to do a darker green in some spots, and what I do is kind of blending those two shades of green together in the middle. I would keep working my way out, coloring in the background different shades of green. Again, blending those colors on top of each other so it doesn't look like I just have chunks of color, but rather that my greens kind of fade into each other. And I'm noticing that some of these greens are very similar, so I'm going to pick out some more greens that are a little bit different. I don't want to just blend them all together. I want them to fade into each other. Okay. And I'm going to go grab some more greens here. So I have some options, maybe some lighter greens in here as well. Now here's where, if I'm blending and you get a harsh line, like this one here, you want to go back in with that darker green that you used, and you want to try to blend them together. So it's really always nice to start lighter and then get darker because it's a little bit easier to blend those colors together. If you want, you could even start with like one shade around your bird. Maybe you want to do the lighter green and then kind of fade to a darker green. You can definitely do that just so that your bird kind of stands out more. You definitely want to, the reason why I didn't do a blue sky is because I used a lot of blue on my bird and I really want my bird to stand out. Okay, so definitely use different shades around your bird so it looks like there's different kind of colors going on in the landscape. But again, you definitely can draw actually a landscape in there with trees and things like that. But I would work through the whole background, kind of blending in these darker and lighter shades of green. Okay. And again, with that blending, you want to color on top of each other, kind of blending those two colors together. So I would kind of continue this technique of blending all these different shades of green in my background, and I would definitely use some different shades of brown to add some shading to my branch to make it look more three-dimensional as well. I won't have you wait and watch me color in the whole background because that would take too long, but I will show you the final picture once I'm done. Good luck!